300,000 civilians were killed in 1 month.
Japan claimed that they've apologized, but Japan never observed the international standards of apology.
Its continued denial, I think, it tells people that their suffering wasn't real. It's not that bad.
It's astonishing the amount of people that were impacted, killed, raped.
It's not a turn of a switch. It's a killing of one person by looking at the person in the eyes.
During World War II, not only the Jews were being killed and suffered under the Nazi fascism, the Asian people also suffered from militarism, colonialism, and fascism from the Imperial Japanese Army. The Japanese military wreaked havoc all over Asia and committed serious and heinous crimes against humanity. And to this day, they have not apologized or paid any reparation to the victims of those atrocities. And this is the stark difference between what Asian people experienced and what the Jews and the European victims experienced under Nazi. Germany has apologized sincerely, paid reparation to the victims, and the world was able to move forward over there in Europe. But in Asia, the World War II history is still a serious geopolitical issue that affects the relationship between the countries and also left a lot of people very angry and felt that their victimization has never been addressed nor heard.
Today, we can see on TV how bombs are dropped, killing thousands of people with a drone. In Nanjing, 300,000 civilians were killed in 1 month by soldiers under the Japanese Imperial Army on a 1-to-1 assault. It's not a turn of a switch. It's a killing of one person by looking at the person in the eyes, looking at the women, looking at the child, looking at the father, brother, and stabbing, burning one at a time, and make a deliberate effort to kill. The comfort women system administered by the Japanese government is the first time in modern history that a government was involved in institutionalizing the kidnapping of women, raping of women, slaughtering of women. It's beyond my imagination how humans can do that to other humans. And yet it happened. You know, the Jewish Holocaust, it was absolutely horrible. Germany has apologized. Japan has not.
When it comes to numbers, it's astonishing the amount of people that were impacted, killed, raped over the course of the massacre. And unfortunately, I think it's easier to brush over those things when simply hearing numbers and seeing the imagery of those things that had exactly happened, whether that was in paintings, photographs, or written testimonies, ultimately brought out the humanity of the people who were affected and the folks that survived as well. You can hear people talk about the Nanjing Massacre in many different ways, but one thing that will not change is the images that were taken away from this incident. It's hard to look at these photos and not have your humanity come through, to have that feeling in your gut that this is wrong.
Iris Chang wrote a book called The Rape of Nanking. And in that book, she talked about the atrocities that were committed in Nanjing. Hundreds and thousands of young women and girls were enslaved by the Japanese military during World War II from 1931 to 1945. These young women suffered tremendously. The average age of the people in captivity was about 14 or 15 years old. Some of them were as young as 9 years old. Their fatality rate is over 90%. And majority of them, I understand, died by suicide because they could not handle the atrocities and the humility and the physical pain that they endured. We're talking about very serious crimes: individual bayoneting, life burials, chemical warfare, experimentation, rape until death. These crimes have been largely forgotten in the West. And we at the Comfort Women Justice Coalition and Rape of Nanking Redress Coalition are dedicated to educate the community about these horrendous events. In 1997, Judge Lillian Singh and I and a group of people who cared about humanity formed a group called the Rape of Nanking Redress Coalition. In this group, we seek to educate the public about what happened to China and the Asian countries during World War II.
After I read the book of Rape of Nanking, I was astonished about what happened in China during World War II. I went to high school in the United States, so I really knew very little about World War II in Asia. And I thought to myself, if I don't know my own history, how few people also know about this? Rape of Nanjing was completely unknown to most people, and I felt it was really important to educate. So my mission in forming our coalition was to bring justice and to educate the world. So when I first started this movement, I got my children's pediatrician, Dr. Clifford Ueda, one of the leading Japanese Americans in the United States, I would say. He was also the chairperson of the Japanese Historical Society. And he and I became the first co-chair of the organization. It was Dr. Clifford Ueda who coined the name Rape of Nanking. We were thinking, would that be too controversial, too emotional? And this Japanese American leader said that was what happened. It was a Holocaust that has been forgotten.
It's an era of misinformation. We've seen kind of a lean from countries all across the world of kind of ignoring their past wrongs. So I think for everyday people, it's just, you start with being informed, reading the books. Many people like me read Iris Chang's book in high school. Some people have gone directly to the memorial site in Nanjing. Just staying informed and making sure that to push back on times where you might hear someone maybe misspeak or just kind of help educate one another. Seeing things that feel like one step forward but three steps back. You see things like the 2015 Comfort Women Agreement, right? Negotiated without any input from survivors, not actually being more of a kind of administrative agreement than an actual amplifying of survivors' voices.
In San Francisco or San Francisco Bay Area, we started Nanjing back in 1996 by a small group of friends, including Iris Chang's parents. We started there, and then we haven't stopped promoting this event during December every year. The goal is for RNRC is ask the Japanese government to recognize this part of the history, object to the Japanese government erase the history in their textbook, and third, connect all the people with the same goal internationally to promote peace and also to preserve the truth of the history.
In 2002, there was this 50th year of the signing of the peace treaty in San Francisco. There was this big, important ceremony. International leaders from all over the world came to San Francisco to commemorate the signing of the peace treaty between Japan and the world. And at that time, our organization, Rape of Nanking Redress Coalition, hosted a counter conference. They called themselves 50 Years of Peace. We called ourselves 50 Years of Denial. And our conference was held at the Miyako Hotel, biggest hotel in Japantown in San Francisco. We put together an ad in the New York Times that at that time ran $10,000. Very expensive for us. A lot of media, the Chronicle, the Examiner in those days covered us because we were the other voice, but a small voice, but very powerful voice.
Most of the stuff that we did have to do with schools, young people. We held a youth conference at City College. We went to USF, University of San Francisco. We also did international conferences in Shanghai, in Beijing.
The World War II history has been 80 years ago, and a lot of people tended to forget. So we have a responsibility to try to preserve this part of the history and tell the public and educate the next generations. Through the time when I was with RNRC, I actually very grateful because I met two special victims who actually gone through during World War II when the Japanese invading China. The first person is my father. He passed away in 2019, but then we were able to arrange him to be one of the victim testimony for his experience during the Japanese invading his village. He told us when he was less than 10 years old how the Japanese went to his village, gave our whole family a big distraction when my grandmother was passed away in the house. They will capture my dad as a hostage and want my family to bring out all the money and all the valuables and give it to them. So the soldier was actually very nervous because there's only two soldiers among my whole family in the house. So his hand was shaking, and then the gun actually triggered, the bullet came out, and then luckily the bullet flew over his head, so he didn't get any injury. But that was a story my dad was trying to tell me when I grew up, and I never believed in it until 2005. He took me to the village, pointed that gun hole that's on the wall, and let me know this is the hole, almost took his life. So from there, I believe whatever my dad was been telling me in the past 20 plus years.
In Asia, the World War II history is still a serious geopolitical issue that affects the relationship between the countries and also left a lot of people very angry and felt that their victimization has never been addressed nor heard. Japan claimed that they've apologized, and some people even believe that they did. But Japan never observed the international standards of apology.
The Japanese citizens are wonderful people, but most of them really don't know what happened. The educational system in Japan completely blocks out Japan's atrocities.
We will continue to propagate this issue as long as Japan stubbornly refuses to apologize. And it looks like it's going to be a long battle. We cannot stop unless Japan faces up to its history.
Most of us are already getting older, and it's very important that the younger generation continue this movement and carry the torch and the spirit of Iris Chang in their hearts.
My generation is probably the last one that will get to speak to survivors directly. And I think that creates a responsibility to carry on that torch. As survivors pass away, it becomes all the easier for governments to deny and rewrite history. I think what's unique with our generation is that our active use of social media is a very powerful tool. These days, there's an erosion of trust in governments. So when people see natural content, vloggers out on the ground or someone who's been to an area that you haven't seen before, you feel a sense of trust and direct connection with them. And there's no shortage of material on the Nanjing Massacre. There's been lots of papers published. There's lots of videos on YouTube. But continuing to amplify those videos to make sure that they reach people and for people to share and speak about it, I think that's something important that my generation can do. These types of tools can be used for the flip side to spread misinformation. So it's our job to continue to stay aware, to talk to each other and communicate directly with people all the way across the world and share your experiences, survivor testimony in ways that could not have been done before.
My first trip to China, I was fortunate enough to visit Nanjing and step foot into the museum and brought home what we call human memory of the solid evidence of the Nanjing Massacre. Both of these books share in common that human memory, but one focusing on sources from China and Japan and the other from the West. The fact that I was able to bring these home and understand the important perspective from both sides has stuck with me. On that trip and over the last couple of years, stood out to me the importance of understanding history and how that informs the present. Oftentimes in the US, we can get caught up in the idea that the United States is the world. And I think traveling internationally to China and particularly understanding events like this that occurred allows me to have a deeper understanding of myself as a global citizen, allows me to have a deeper sense of humanity as a whole. Being Jewish myself, having had my people survive a Holocaust in the same way that I would want people to at least have an understanding, if not an appreciation, of that history. It's important for me to give that same energy and appreciation to the people of Nanjing. Ultimately, it's my duty as someone who's been a part of this culture to be able to carry on that memory and history.
I don't have family from Nanjing, but my family is from the South, and my grandma has told me stories about her experiences during wartime, of hiding from bombings, seeing neighbors' houses being shelled. She passed last year, so it's part of a way to kind of help remember her and carry on that type of legacy of what Chinese people as a whole went through during that era.
The most important space that one can be is to be informed. And once you're informed, you're able to take action upon that. To me, Justice 1 looks like an acknowledgement, an acceptance, and accountability. Whether that comes in the form of direct apology, meeting with survivors and hearing their testimonies, supporting their families, any option would be great. But it begins with an acceptance, acknowledgement, and remembrance.
Of course, ultimate justice is a formal, unambiguous acknowledgement from the Japanese government, right? Its continued denial, I think, is incredibly painful. It tells people that their suffering wasn't real. It's not that bad. I think that reopens the wound all over again. It's a doubling down. But going further than that, I'd like to see maybe a clear statement across all levels of government where no more denying survivors' testimonies, trying to wash this out, and better education at all levels, Many countries do acknowledge their prior wrongs, and I think instituting better education in Japanese schools would be considered success as well. I don't know if we'll ever achieve those lofty goals of an apology during my lifetime, but the more seeds you plant, the more people you talk to, it's harder and harder to erase, and the survivors' voices continue to be heard long after they're gone.
Myself, I have a wish. I hope the public, especially the Chinese family, can encourage their kids or all the students who are interested in World War II history to come join us to continue, preserve, and recognize the history, so hopefully they can treasure the peace that we have right now.
I think that the lesson that we have from all the work that we've done is to really understand not just history, but understand what the current situation is. And that's why we really have to teach our young people to cherish what they have. That peace is invaluable, but peace cannot be taken for granted. And the best time to work towards peace is during peacetime. Join up with peace organizations, learn about what we're doing, help us to promote the issue that without peace, nothing is worthwhile.